Welcome to the Slade Ham experiment. I'm talking to you specifically. Get on in here. It's a deep indigo version of the Midnight Spaceship tonight. Welcome aboard. A lot to get to. Mainly a piece I wrote for Facebook that I want to elaborate on just a little bit. We'll see if I have time to do everything in this episode. I've been toying with a different version of the intro to the special, which has made me have to revisit and explain some things visually that I didn't know how to do, which has prompted me to use image generation AI. A lot of time on Midjourney lately. It's something I will probably talk more about in a different episode, but it's made me think on AI quite a bit. I cannot wait for the chip in the head or whatever it is that once they figure it out. I'm not going to beta test for you, Elon. But once they got all this worked out, I'm ready for it. I was on my, this is honest. I was on my bike earlier. I was on a ride. And I passed this lesbian couple that was clear, like clearly lesbian. Like they just, the text, they looked it. But what was fascinating was their baby looked exactly like him. Little Latino lesbian, even had the hair. It was perfect. And I wanted to just ask, where'd y'all get that? Like, because they didn't have it. How'd you get one that looks just like both of you? Maybe one of them, I don't know. There's science. They could have paid, they could have gone. I'm sure there's ways to do it. But that's what I need AI for. So that as I pass them on the bike trail, I need an AI that can answer the questions that we can't ask. I need an AI that I go, is she pregnant? And it can answer. Maybe it goes through and pulls your Facebook feed for the last 3 years. And it's like, nope, just chicken wings and whiskey. That's what I want, an AI that can answer the nebulous questions. I don't know why that's in my head right now. Here's what I wrote. I wrote a piece, 10 things I think that I wish I'd known about comedy, that I wish someone had told me beforehand, but I wouldn't have listened to anyway, I think was what I titled it. And I'll share them with you here. All 10 of them, I think, this episode, because 1, you probably didn't see it, and 2, these are good for all sorts of things aside from comedy. This is shit I've learned about life. And it may not be right for you, but for me, it works. 1, you need friends who aren't comedians. Hear that, comedians. All my comedian friends, listen well. You need friends who aren't comedians. You need friends who are comedians too. That's important, but not all of them. We are supposedly a mixture of the 5 people we hang around most. We all know that. It's cliche. But if the 5 people you hang around most are all comedians, you've only got one point of view. And that's the bad part. You need people in your circle who can cover your blind spots. If you're an exceptionally funny person, you need someone around you who understands the business world, right? Who understands responsibility, who understands structure and scheduling and methods of doing things that you, the artist, probably don't understand. And if you just got 4 other knuckleheaded yous around you, that's all you're going to get. More of the same. Plus, comedians make terrible support structures. You're all vying for the same bone, which is another point I'll bring up later. That's an illusion. But everybody's competing for the same thing, so it's very hard to find. You want someone in your circle, you want your people to be people that are excited when something good happens to you. When you go, hey, I got this thing. You want them to light up on your behalf, not to go, oh, well, I applied for that thing too and I didn't get it. What'd you do that was so much better than what I did? That's what comics do every time. You got in a festival? Why didn't they get into a festival? You got this part in a movie? Why didn't they get this part? Oh, you're shooting a comedy special? Why aren't they shooting a comedy special? Go look at every friend I got and see who posted about the comedy special. They don't do it. It's not a good support structure. You need people who aren't just like you. 2, all of this, every last bit of this art is about failure. That's not a byproduct. Failure is not something that you got to deal with, that you got to contend with. It is the dark matter that makes up 95% of our space. Failure. Real matter is the success. It's what makes it out of the tumbling machine. But almost all of it's failure. I was going through old notebooks today. I was sitting at the coffee shop, going through old notebooks, cannibalizing ideas that didn't make it into this special. Because now that this special's done, I still got to go on tour. I got to go back out. I'm going to have dates eventually. And I've got to have a show. So I'm starting to put all that together. And I'm looking at old outlines. Sets I did, things I was working on, bits. And not only do I see some terrible ideas, I also see the beginning of ideas that did make it to the special. And they're terrible too. It's astounding how everything starts as complete and utter suckage. And when you accept that, when you get used to that, it's a secret power. Total superpower. The ability to just eat failure over and over because you know it leads to that little gem at the end of the day. What do I know? You gotta fall in love with that cycle of failure and success. It will make your life so much better. Because stage fright, right? In comedy, that fear of getting on stage. If you constantly, and I know this because I feel it, I felt it a ton at the beginning of this special. I feel when I go up with new stuff, if I do it like at the Improv here in Houston and I've got my crowd out there and my buddies are on the show, I feel pretty strong. But when you're just on the road and it's you and you're working with some dude who you don't really know that week in the club, and you're in a club that, you don't do great, they might not bring you back. And all of that will make you question whether or not you're going to try the new stuff. You're like, if I fail, everything's riding on it. And it is if that's what you're measuring it by. But if you're measuring it by the reps you got to get in, by the fact that this is just an iteration you got to get out of the way, good or bad, it's got to get out of the way, then everything's a win. Even if you somehow tank the show and they fire you and everything's miserable, you're at least like, well, that's one more way I know not to do it. It makes getting up there feel way less stressful if you're working on something different. That's all I can say. Here you go. This is for all of you all of you at home joke writers, you dad jokers. Whatever your first idea is, chunk it. Whatever pops into your brain. This isn't just comedy. None of these are just comedy, by the way. When you go to think of something, man, how can I solve this? The first thing that jumps into your brain should be suspect. It comes too easy. Nothing that pops into your head that quickly is yours. You got to take that first nugget that pops in. In joke terms, I'm talking about that's what she said, right? You hear somebody says something, that's what she said. You get the nice little giggle. It's dumb. It's very basic. With stand-up, if you run with the first joke, if you run with the first idea, if you run with that first thing that popped into your head, the audience is going to get there first. It's important in comedy that there be an element of surprise, that the audience doesn't see what's coming. That's the essence of comedy. Follow me this way so I can whoosh, jerk you over this way. No, we're going over here. Are we really? No, you idiot. We're going over here. That's what comedy is. But if I just draw you a map and then go where it looks like we were going, you're bored. So when you're writing stand-up, I got to write this joke about this thing. Whatever bubbles up first, don't throw it away, but throw it away. Maybe it's worth something when combined with something else. Maybe if you put an exponent on it, maybe if you do something to it. But that first idea, you got to get rid of it. It's what separates you from lesser comics. They're all stopping at that idea. The further you go, the weirder you get, the more original it becomes. And being a multi-step thinker is not a bad thing. Learning to think past that first then what? Then what? Ask that question a lot. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Speaking of what else? What else? Number 4. Where are we? We on 4? Sounds like 4. Get good at being alone. I don't mean in life. You don't have to be lonely. I mean, get good at being by yourself. Because a lot of stand-up is traveling by yourself, being by yourself in a hotel, in a condo, long car ride, plane ride, train ride. It's all just you. Sometimes the person you're sitting next to, sometimes another comic for the week, sometimes club staff, sometimes a flight attendant who's being nice. You see people, but you got to get good with just sitting with yourself. And for a lot of people, it's terrifying. You'll find yourself sitting in these spaces and you'll feel the need to cram every single stupid second of it with noise of some sort. Spotify, YouTube, Netflix. It's so easy to pump your head full of just someone else just giving you thoughts and ideas so you don't have to contend with your own. And again, the superpower, if you're willing to learn it, is to get good at being by yourself, to get good at being with just yourself, to get comfortable with whatever might show up. I started riding my bike with my earbuds in, but no music playing the last stretch. I've been doing walks that way too. And it's incredible how much my body appreciates these little gifts of silence in this otherwise noisy world. So if you want to take advantage of that blissful quiet, solve some of the stuff that's still floating around in there. Those things that bubble up and make you go, oh no, I'd rather go out drinking tonight. Oh no, I'd rather turn the radio up full blast. Get comfortable with those. Clean the house. Knock the spider webs out the corner. Vacuum the rug. Tap the dust out the pillows. Make this a comfortable place to exist. You'll never be bored or lonely again. So says I. Number 5. Say yes to everything you haven't tried yet. There's no rule on here about no. I have lots of thoughts on the word no. I believe in it more than I believe in the word yes in most cases. But in this case, say yes. To be an interesting comic, you have to be able to talk about things from every perspective. Not every perspective, but lots of perspectives. And you need to be able to empathize with those perspectives. And to do that, you need to go experience the world the way these people do. This doesn't mean traveling into the heart of Africa. This doesn't mean going to some South American jungle. This just means cross the border into Louisiana. Go see what those mad idiots are doing. They are. They're up to something. Go up to Oklahoma. Go sit with those folk. Go out to California instead of just sharing memes about how you hate all these things. Go sit with these people. Go see what makes them view the world that way. Makes it infinitely easier for you to compare things in jokes, because as I've said before, comedy is about showing what is similar between things that have nothing in common, apparently, and showing what is different between things that are seemingly similar. If you can do that, you can trick people. You can give them a ta-da moment, an aha. Oh, I didn't see that. Wow. You can't do that if you don't understand all these things, if you haven't experienced all these things, if you don't put yourself out there in a way that you come back capable of making connections that nobody else has made before. All right. Rule number 5. 6. 6? 7, 8, 9, 10. 6. These aren't rules. These are things. Comedy is difficult, but not hard. I'll say it again. Comedy is difficult, but not hard. Kind of like the difference between simple and easy. Difficult, for sure. Hard, though, I don't believe in hard work. I don't believe in, unless you're just trying to build something for your own edification. Hard work, if you want to build a house, maybe. Construction workers in August in Texas have hard jobs. Relatively simple in some instances, but definitely hard. Comedy is difficult. Comedy is difficult because it requires not physical strength or endurance, but mental strength and endurance. The game is to wait it out while working diligently. Not to expect anything tomorrow or even the next day, probably not the next week. In all honesty, probably not to expect anything at all. To get to a place where you can sustain yourself, where you're happy with what you're creating. That's what we should be angling for. But to get there, you have to be masochistically diligent in your trudge forward. You can't be derailed. You can't be shaken. You can't be talked out of it. You can't be knocked off the path. You got to just put your head down and walk into the snowstorm every single day. That's it. In the hopes that it will be sunny one day. Then you get comfortable walking around in the snow. You learn to love to walk in the snow. You make the journey enjoyable. You get the best out of it. You hope for the sunny day somewhere down the line. But the walk, that long, diligent walk, is the most important part. Just keep working at it. It's not going to be brute force. You're going to grind comedy and art away like a canyon wall. Eventually, you'll get there. All of this job is just not quitting. Go to work, chop wood, get your jokes out, keep what works, throw away what doesn't, fix what you like. Wake up tomorrow, do it again. All right, 4 more. Learn all the rules and how to play inside of them. Comics don't like to hear that one. Comedy has a lot of rules, man. It's flash bashing of free speech. We should be able to do anything we want to do, however we want to do it. Blah, 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 mothership. Sure. But there's rules. There's rules every night. Every night. They change. They're different every time I get on stage. But there's rules. There's rules in what a crowd will allow and what they won't allow, what you can get by with and what you can't. None of these are hard and fast. They don't have anything to do with the room itself. They have to do with the show and the makeup and the audience and your mindset. All sorts of things. Also, learning to work within constraints is probably the best thing you can do for yourself. It's like working out with ankle weights on. Learn to work clean. Learn to work within parameters. Learn to work within time restraints. Learn all of those things, all of those constraints When I go do military shows, there's stuff immediately off the table. No politics. President's the commander-in-chief. No graphic sex stuff. No, there's all sorts of things that we're not allowed to do because it's a professional setting for the most part, right? A lot of times it's officers, family members. We're there for morale. We're not there to ruffle feathers. We're trying to do a good thing. So there's parameters there. Now when I come home, I take the gloves off. I go right back to a club with all my words and all my ideas and nobody to tell me anything otherwise. Blissful. That's why I structured a military tour right before I went on tour to work out this show. And even the way I put the shows together on the tour, they all ended in the freest place I could be so that I had all my tools. But I learned how to work within parameters early, and I did it all. I make myself do it now because I know the benefit of forcing yourself. You can't have access to everything. Everything is too much. If you're going into a club, you should have an idea of what you're going in to do. I don't go in there thinking to myself, well, I got 6 hours of material. Let's see. No, there's a plan, and a plan is parameter. You should always have some, and then those should be malleable, and those should be breakable, and none of them really, really matter. But working that way, even if you're prepping for a special, right? You can't do what you want. You ain't gonna do that stupid show. You got to learn it. Does that mean that you're handicapped? Oh, comedy sucks. I'm not allowed to do what I want. Well, it's okay if the parameters are self-imposed. I think they're a good thing. So just learn it. Shut your mouth. Do what the show requires. Eventually, you can break all the rules. I promise. All right, three more. Running out of time. This is a big one. I'm going to save it. We'll do this one first. I alluded to it earlier. Comedy is not a zero-sum game. You can do this any way you want to do it. There's not only 100 spots. If you want to do stand-up comedy, there are people all over this planet who are happily buying tickets to go see people they love. Be someone they love. That's simple. No one can tell you how to do that. There's not anybody else's way that matters. There will be plenty to go around. Find your lane. Figure out what you like to do. Especially if you're hanging out with a bunch of your knuckleheaded comic friends. If you're still stuck on number one and you haven't replaced the people in your life with some other people, keep your comedy friends, but augment them. If you're just going to keep friends in comedy, you owe it to yourself to float into slightly deeper water where they may not be. Go after something they're not going after. One, you'll find your happiness when you're not competing immediately with your friends. Your happiness level goes up. And two, like I've said before, there's less and less people the deeper you go. Pick something big. Swing for it. You'll be shocked at how waking up and going after a daily goal will change you. It will also make it so much simpler for you to be around your friends and not feel competitive and, in fact, feel helpful. So once you figure your thing out, it becomes so much easier to help people get theirs because you don't feel like every egg they pick up is coming out of your basket. You got to get yourself to that place, or this whole industry will keep you up at night with jealous whisperings in your ear about all the things all your friends are getting and you're not. And you don't need that. It's not zero sum, no matter what you want. There's nothing that's running out. You ain't got to wrestle for the same bone as all the other dogs. Second to last. It's the biggest myth in the whole game. But you do not have to be unhappy to be a comedian. Look at me. Talking to you. This belief that only comedy can come from pain. It's masochistic and it is unnecessary. And even if it were so, even if the only thing, if in fact all of the math, comedy plus tragedy, equals time, whatever. Tragedy plus time. God, why did I mess that up? Tragedy plus timing equals comedy. All of those things are true. Haven't we suffered enough? Hasn't there been enough pain to write 1,000 comedy specials? And we're inevitably going to face more. You don't need to manufacture calamity. It's coming. It's waiting outside. It's on the porch waiting for you to walk outside. Death, destruction, calamity. Terrible things. They happen all the time. You don't need to make bad stuff happen or wallow in old bad stuff. Just live and put some happiness to it, because it's out there and it's not that hard to find if you're just willing to take your foot off the accelerator of the car called misery. The most productive stretches of my life, hands down, have come at my happiest. And I think the reason is that I'm not distracted by trying to fill in those blanks of my life with relationship, all the things. Pick your stack of stuff that makes you unhappy. Fix a couple of those things, and then watch how clear your mind is when you sit down to do the thing you love. It's amazing. You just got to trust it. You at least got to try it once. It's like a vegetable. Just if you hate it afterwards, you can go back to whatever, being unhealthy. But you should at least try to not wallow in it for a few days and not be afraid that comedy will stop showing up, that the muse will turn her back on you for doing a little self-work. And that, my friends, leads us to the last one. This isn't for everybody. It's that simple. Comedy's not for everybody. What you're doing isn't for everybody. Might not be for you. It's a tough pill to swallow. But it's way cooler to let go of something that's not serving you, something that's not making you happy, something that's not bringing you joy. In the long run, those scales will balance on the side of happiness if you let go of that crap now. So if you're doing stand-up and it's just making you miserable, take a break. You don't have to quit permanently, but take a break. Stop wearing that label so proudly. I don't know what to do if I'm not a stand-up. You'd be staggered at what you could do. So if it is for you, go back. There's 9 other things I wish people had told me. Maybe you'll learn them. I wish good things upon you. I just set a date, January 10th, I think. The Houston Improv. I'm doing a brand new hour. The comedy special will be done. It is done. It is in post, being edited, which means I gotta have stuff to tour with. So brand new hour of stuff from me. January 10th at the Houston Improv. Thank you for all of you who send gifts and things and emails and messages. And I'm gonna grab one of these and say, I'll cover all this on the 𝗶̈ Brothers podcast, but Mary, package received. These are bourbon marshmallows. Can you see that? Yeah. These are for chicken. I opened the wrong bag, and I it happens every time. It doesn't matter what you send me, people. Easy to find. Subscribe. We're almost at the 1,000 sub mark, and this would help me immensely. Once we cross that threshold, it changes some things. So hit sub if you haven't. Stick around for more of these episodes. I love you guys. You can really taste the bourbon in these. As always, cheers from the Midnight Spaceship on the Slade experiment.